All right, today we're going to be covering technical session number T-12, peripherals and connectors. And you're looking at all the fun and different ways that we can make our computers more functional and the different ways that we will connect them. We will be talking about and defining the role, purpose, and types of peripherals. We will compare and contrast the various connection interfaces, their characteristics, and their purpose. We'll also be able to identify connector types and associated cables, and install common peripheral devices, including input and output devices. All right. So in this particular session, the BSMs we want to keep in mind will be growth mindset. Though the information we may be studying may not be the most exciting at the time, understand that it is very useful and pertinent to what we will be doing. We want to get through some of this stuff so that we can get to the more exciting stuff, mostly the reason why we're here. But in order to be really effective at that, we need to understand the core basics of the technology as well. We also want to maintain a customer focus. Always remember that without the customers, we aren't here. If we do not serve our customers well, they will not come back. Or if they're internal customers, if we do not serve them well, we won't be there long. So we have to maintain a customer focus. Treat the customers as how you would like to be treated. Take care of the customer's emotional state first, then address their problems. Whereas, my old classmate used to say, solve the customer first, then solve the problem. Because if their emotional state is heightened, it's going to be harder to get to the actual core issue. All right. What is a peripheral? All right. Well, it is essentially an auxiliary device that adds functionality to a computer, such as like a webcam, a keyboard, a printer, digital camera, all these kind of fun things that make these computers more useful to our daily lives. You roll back about 10 years ago, what we're doing right now wouldn't be possible. Yes, we had webcams, but it chewed up so much of the active bandwidth. The idea of having active conversations with 30, 40 people on the regular for relatively inexpensive costs, pretty much unheard of. But over time, the promulgation of these peripherals, the widespread use of them, add so much functionality to our lives. Think about smartphones. The original, like the Gordon Gecko brick phones, you could make a phone call and it only costs you about $1,000 a minute, to now, many places offer unlimited minutes and you can surf the web and have the entirety of human knowledge at your fingertips if you know where to look for it. This is all due to the adding of peripherals and functionality to the devices we already have. Most of the time, peripherals are external and is always an add-on to a system. Over time, we are integrating more and more, so they're less considered to be peripherals, but they typically started out as peripherals. Some input components we need to be aware of, some of the most common ones. We got keyboards, game pads, biometric devices, which are pretty good for security, although even those are becoming more integrated nowadays on phones and laptops and things like that, but originally they were add-on devices. Touchpads, mouse, joysticks, and so on and so on. And also the card readers down at the bottom, also great for security and things like that. So other input output components, so they kind of bridge that gap. They are both. We have a KVM switch. What is that? Keyboard, video, mouse. It allows you to hook up a single unit to multiple computers. And then you have touchscreen. which allows you to input on the screen itself and receive information from it. So it is both input and output, but also remember, for the purposes of the exam, if it is not explicitly stated as a touchscreen, it is assumed to be just a straight monitor. So always keep that in mind. Smart TVs, input, outputs. For a while there, they had the cameras on them. I don't know, do they still do the cameras on the smart TVs, or do they just kind of like, nope, that's a bad idea? So originally they had cameras on it, so like you could actually use your body as the remote. So like if you wanted to wake it up, you just started waving like this. And then you could make like, you know, random gestures to change channels and, you know, or give it a wake command and tell it, you know, go to channel 7. I know Xbox had this for a while, and you could give voice commands to the Xbox. So if you were playing like multiplayer games online, if you shouted out Xbox off, it would shut off a whole bunch of your you know, opponents in the game and stuff like that. So that was a way some people would mess with others if they knew they were playing with Xboxes. And that's why headphones became really nice, because the sound only came out through the headphone and the Xbox didn't hear it. So that kind of incorporates into that smart device. You also have the MIDI devices, which I believe Candido said he did a lot with the sound mixing and stuff like that. So he'll be intimately familiar with these types of devices as well. So, but these would be considered input and output. So the information flows both ways. All-in-one printers is another good one, because they can scan, they can fax, and they can print. So you can input information into the computer, and you can also get information out. Output components, a straight printer. If you only hear the word printer, it's just a printer. It's kind of like the touchscreen. If you don't hear the term all-in-one, it's just a printer. Bear with me here. As we said, the monitors, it's just a monitor unless I say otherwise. Speakers, just a speaker. They don't have microphones built in, none of that fun stuff. It is just a speaker unless they state otherwise, because we have to be more precise with our language. Again, don't look for the exception that disproves the rule. All right, the back of the computer. Do we need to know all this stuff? Yes. Does it still look like this? No. Will you still come across computers that look like this? Probably. So up top, if you have an older mouse or keyboard, you'll be familiar with the teal and the lavender, letting you know those are the PS2 ports. For your keyboard and your mouse. They originally they were just black, but then they color coded them for us, which made life a little bit easier, I guess. But now most mice are wireless or USB oriented at this time. But there still are some, you know, if you still have an old mouse that you're, you know, emotionally attached to, that you don't want to give up. I still have one that I've had for, gosh, over 20 something years now. It's a trackball mouse. Can't find one that works just as good as it, but it's got the old connector like this. So I actually had to find an adapter that went to a USB. I've used that mouse at like every job I've ever been at, as well as in college. And it just works so good, and it never died on me. So, you know, why buy something new when it doesn't, you know, when it isn't broken? But nowadays we don't see these connectors anymore. So thankfully they do make adapters where we can adjust. The USB port's pretty familiar right here. Based off the color, we know this is a USB 2.0 because it is black. Right next to it, we show our network port or Ethernet port, where we would plug in our Ethernet cables. Below that, we have our serial port, which was typically used for our dial-up modems. If we did not use a old school POTS RJ11, which is your old phone line. And then we have this really big long one. It's like a DB, it's a DB25, you know, but we also call it an LPT1, which is your printer port. And then we have the DB15 down here, also known as a VGA. So the two ways you'll hear it referred to as a DB15 or a VGA. And DB, it's Delta Bravo, DB stands for D sub miniature. Yes, Stephen.
Aren't some of them have like 6 audio inputs? There's like 6 ports.
Yes.
And what would those be? What would you put
Well, one of them would probably be like the fiber optic input. You may have a separate one for speakers and headphones, or left and right out. So you might have left and right out speaker, or left and right out headphone, microphone, and then have a fiber optic.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So that is definitely something you would see. The DB ports are this is where my terrible drawing comes in. You know, the DB ports kind of look like this. They always almost look like a D, like shaped like a D. So you can kind of see it here. I'm going to change the color so that we can actually see it on what I'm drawing. This is why I needed the yellow. So you can see it kind of angled down here, goes down, comes up. Wow, really can't see that either. All right. We have another neon color. Let's try this. Is that better? All right. So it's kind of like a little bit of an angle, you know, looks like a D, and there's 15 pinholes. So you know, basically it'll be DB and then however many pinholes are in there. So like the game port or joystick is probably like a DB20. So right here, like, so the old school joysticks and stuff would use a port like this. Nowadays, almost everything is going towards a USB or a USB-C type port, because it's pretty universal technology and the throughputs on them are becoming really good. So it makes more sense just to add more USB ports rather than have all these various different types. Even printers nowadays go to USBs and things like that, rather than these really big LPT ports. So, will we be required to know this on site? Yes. All right, USB. Probably the most common connector we use today. So the universal serial bus. And the nice thing about the USBs is a single USB port on your computer. You can daisy chain up to 127 devices to a single USB port. That's a lot. So the technology involved, you can put up to 127 devices chained together on a single USB, and it still would function. The devices are technically considered to be hot swappable. Does anybody know what the term hot swappable means? Yes, Susan.
You can take the part out or switch or exchange it without having to turn the system off, kind of.
Very good. Very good. We can contrast that with cold swappable. What does cold swappable mean?
The system has to be turned off.
System has to be turned off. So there's your absolute contrast. You have hot swappable and cold swappable. And then they split the difference. What's warm swappable? USBs were technically considered to be, especially like flash drives, were warm swappable for a very long time. So warm swappable means the power can still be on, but you have to actively eject the device. So you have to go in and basically stop what it's doing, and say, eject device. So like if you've hooked up your phone to your computer to transfer data, they have that little eject button next to it, and you have to push that before you unplug your phone. Otherwise, bad things can happen. That's technically considered a warm swappable. So I can unplug it or plug it in. Like hot swappable, I can unplug one, plug another one in with the computer on, no other intervention needed, and it's good. So it's technically considered to be a hot swappable device. With regards to the book, the A+, they consider internal hard drives with SATA technology to be hot swappable. Here's my problem with that. Do we ever reach inside of a computer when it's on? No. So in my mind, no, it's not hot swappable. But for the purposes of the exam, SATA technology is considered to be hot swappable. So I can, without ever turning anything off, I can just unplug the hard drive, plug a new hard drive in, and everything works just fine. So USB technically has 4 wires. 2 of those wires are designated for power. 2 of those wires are designated for communication. We've gone through several revisions of USB technology where you had USB 1.1, which was technically considered a low speed. And then you get up to the 2.0, which is high speed, 3.0, which is super speed, and then 3.1, which is blazing fast, USB 10 gigabits per second. So SATA connectors are the little red L-shaped ones inside that connect to hard drives, Sarah Stephen. Don't worry, we'll show them again today.
No, you said they were hot swappable? On the
Yes, technically with regards to the A+ exam, they are considered hot swappable.
So you don't have to turn off the computer.
You don't have to turn off the computer. But my problem is do we ever reach inside a computer when it's on? So that's where my argument comes in on that. You say it's hot swappable, but I'm not supposed to reach into a computer while it's on. So technically, no, it would not be, because safety reasons I shouldn't reach in. But they say the technology itself allows for hot swapping, so it is. So Joseph, did you have a question, sir? And then I will get to DW.
I just thought if you could just drop this link into Slack, and I'll be able to open it on the next device to do some screenshot, please.
Yes, have you dropped it in the Slack, Mark? The student base?
No, I'm not saying that in Slack. It's here on Zoom.
DW, what's your question, sir?
I got the speeds, the data transfer speeds for the 2.0, 3.0, and 3.1, but what's the speed, the rate of the transfer for the 1.1, the actual rate of transfer?
I think it's like 3.4 or something like that. It's really slow. Like 3.4 megabits per second. Like it's pretty slow. I believe, I'll have to look it up to confirm, but I think that's what the transfer speed was with the original one, because it wasn't really widely adopted until we got to the 2.0. And we will get to the C standard of USB here in a little bit. So did you have another question, DW, or is that? All right. Yes, Julian, that is Star Wars. And if you're going to be in IT, you have to thoroughly embrace geek culture. So you got to start learning about and picking up on these references. Yes, Stephen.
Are the speeds measured in seconds?
The speed is measured in how much data per second. And understand where we have to be accurate here. Remember, we were talking about data, the big B versus the little b. See how they got the little b here? So instead of, and the G is for giga, obviously, but it's a little b, so that means bits. So ones and zeros, gigabits per second. If this was a big B, it would be gigabytes per second, which is a heck of a lot faster by a factor of 8, I believe. So it's how much data it can transfer per second is how we measure it. All right. Yes, Benkata.
Can you tell me again the hot swappable and cold swappable?
Okay. Hot swappable means if the device is plugged into your computer and it is on, you're able to unplug the device while the computer is on and everything's going to be okay. And then you can plug another device in while the computer is on and it's still fine. If it's cold swappable, the computer must be off. If you unplug it while the computer is on, you can do severe damage to the unit. Like it may just be, data corruption. It could be that the entire unit itself is, catastrophically ruined. That used to happen with USBs all the time. If you did not eject a USB before you pulled it out and it was running a function, it could corrupt the entire drive. But nowadays, the technology has improved significantly and you can just pull the USB out and you're fine. That's brutal, DW. So does that answer your question, Venkata? All right.
Yes, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so here are the speeds and allotted cable lengths that we can go with each individual technology. So I would focus on this information here and this information here. Typically, you won't be hit with this information, but it's something you can Google if you need to. So USB 1, okay, I was off by a little bit. It's 12 megabits per second, not 3.4. So 12 megabits per second was your USB 1.1. So I was only off by 4 times the amount. So, hey, that's close. Then you have USB 2, 480 megabits per second. So significant improvement from 1 to 2. And then 3 jumped up to 5 gigabits per second. So that was a huge jump. And then as we know, 3.1 went to 10 gigabits per second. So it even doubled that, which is incredibly fast in such a short period of time, how this technology grew. USBs up until 3.1 all had the same shape. How we could tell the difference on site looking at it was the color internally of the USB. And see if I can grab one here real quick. I'm unplugging something bad. We'll come back to it. So inside on the USB, I'll show you on the picture. Like I believe the ones, like 1.0 might have been white, 2.0 was black, 3.0 was blue, like a teal blue. And that's how you know on site when you're looking at them what generation you're dealing with. And then after 3.1, they moved up to the C, which was an improvement upon speed and design. Because the C was the first one that was bi-directional. You could put the USB in either way and it worked just fine. Up until that point, it could only go in one way. In which anybody who has ever tried to hook up a computer in a tight space where you're having to reach behind everything and get everything in there, you never get it right on the first try. So you always got to, flip it around and get it correct so that it comes in. So the speed jumps were amazing. And then the maximum cable lengths, which is why, like, if you were looking for a 15-foot USB cable, you couldn't find it. And that is because of data transmission. So on the ones, we only had 3 meters, 2.0 allowed for 5, and then USB 3 and 3.1 only allowed for 3 meters. That's maximum cable length. If you're going to go any further than that, you need a hub or a repeater or something of that nature to retransmit the data down the line for you. I believe the USB-C specs come up a little bit later in this one here.
Kelly, does using a hub, does it lower the speed at all? Like if you have to use hubs to extend the length?
Hubs can slow down speed, but it's not necessarily because of the hub themselves. It's because of how a hub is. It's not because of the type of a hub. It's how hubs transmit data. But we will get into that when we get into networking. But if you have a bunch on a hub, essentially a USB hub, you have a bunch of devices operating, yes, it can slow things down because think about everything is trying to communicate through a single pipe. So you have 10 devices trying to go through a single pipe. That single pipe only has so much bandwidth it can use, or so much water can be pushed through it at any given time. So, you know, if you have 10 devices trying to share it, yeah, each device can only have a certain amount of bandwidth to make it work. So yes, it can slow things down. It doesn't necessarily mean it will. If you're operating off of USB 3.1 hub, you would have to have a bunch of pretty, like, quite a few high bandwidth peripherals before you would see that drop off. All right. Maximum cable length for 3.1, I believe, is also 3 meters. All right. (10 gigabits per second for 3.1. So some of these here may be familiar to you, some may not. The standard shape you would see plugged into your computer is a type A. So that rectangular one, this rectangular shape right here, that is a type A, USB type A. The other side of that, this square one right here, that is a USB type B connector. Typically used for printers, scanners, things like that originally. Then we had one of the originals for cell phones and digital cameras and all kinds of fun stuff like that. We had the mini B connector right here. Hard to see. So let me switch back to yellow here. So front on of that kind of looks like this, and then it goes up and it has like a little hat like this. So that is a mini B. Older cell phones, digital cameras, stuff like that would typically use the mini B. I believe like the DS and stuff like that also did. So that's the mini B. And then you have below it, which is, or was, the most common cell phone one, it's the micro B, which is a little bit thinner, goes like this. And a much smaller port in it. So the micro B right here. So the mini is larger than the micro. The mini looks like the nice little hat here. The micro is significantly flatter. Used on cell phones up until recently, which they've started converting over to the USB-C for most Android-based cell phones and things like that. Questions so far? Yeah, the micro Bs weren't as robust or sturdy as the minis. I would even say the connectors on the inside of the devices weren't either, because I can't tell you on 3 different phones, I had a little metal connector inside break and would no longer charge.
I think they made them that way. Keep you going back and buying more.
It was on purpose. Planned obsolescence. It's a thing. All right. There we go. And moving along. Don't worry, there are more. Here we go. So we got a micro A connector, 5-pin connector. It is slightly smaller than the mini. It actually is hard to detect on site. I mean, it is like smaller by like 10%. So you have the micro A right here. Also used for cameras, cell phones, other small electronic devices as well. Then we start moving into the 3.0s. So we get the 3.0B right here, which easily detected by the blue color right here. And then if you look at it where the old micro B, or the old B connector looked like that, this one actually has like a little extra piece on the top of the connector, but it still has the general square shape, which would point you towards a B type connector, also used for printers, scanners, fun stuff like that. So bit of an improvement upon the original B, much higher transmission speeds, better for scanning, multiple documents or printing, like high speed printing. Works wonderful. Thankfully, they never thought to try to do that with a cell phone, because these things are way too big for that. And then finally, we get down to the micro B, which is kind of a connector with 2 of them. So it kind of goes like this, it goes over, and then it comes down, and then it's almost got another connector attached to it. So it's got 2 little connectors in one. This is most predominantly seen in hard drives. Very fast transmission speed. It is kind of a unique looking one, so it's kind of an easy one to remember, the micro B. And again, hard drives is the most common place you will see it. Questions so far?
You guys are good. I had plenty
I
of
know,
questions
man.
at this point.
Cable experts. It's exciting stuff. All right, so here is a front-on look at what these cables will look like, kind of give you a better view on them. This also shows the C in action. See, it's got that distinctive oval shape here. And it is a fully reversible plug. You will see that question a lot. It is the only USB plug capable of being reversible. USB plug, because obviously down here you have the Apple Lightning cable. That one is also reversible. But when they're talking about USB technology, the Type-C is the only one that is bidirectional or reversible.
Hey, Kelly.
Yo.
Hunter has a question in chat. Micro A. Don't have it in front of me.
All right. Sorry. Clear drawings. Let me go back to that real quick. So. No, too far. There we go. So the micro B connector is going to be slightly larger than the micro A. Micro A is about 10% smaller. And the thing about the micro A that makes it a little bit different is the little clips that help hold it in. So it still has the same shape as the micro B, but it has these little metal tabs that stick down on the bottom that help hold it in while it's, you know, connected or charging. So that makes it a little bit more distinct. It is smaller than the so the micro A is about 10% smaller than the micro B. Both of those are smaller than the mini B, because the mini B, you remember, looks like a little top hat. So yes, it is smaller than both. Yes, Stephen.
So when the connector is not specified, is that considered a 1.1 or a 2.0? It says 3.0 USB connector.
If it is not specified, so if you look at the color, the white would be a 1.0 or 1.1. Black would be 2.0.
Nice. Okay.
So thankfully they're color coded. So white 1.1, black 2.0, and blue or teal or blue is 3.0 and 3.1. No, I think, was it 3.1? Is that lavender, that purple? I'll have to check.
Yeah, I have to look that one up. I haven't seen too many of those. I don't remember.
Yeah, so lavender may be 3.1, but 3.0 is the blue. Do a quick consultation with my coworker here. Nope, that's still showing the teal color. Or the blue, excuse me.
Yeah, it's still showing the blue,
Might be just some manufacturers do that just to be a little fancy,
a little different. Yeah.
make it look a little prettier. Because I have seen the purple lavender inside. Yes, Karen.
You said that the type C connector is the 24-pin fully reversible USB plug connector.
Yes,
So-
Type C, right here.
So what differentiates that from the Apple one down there that you circled? Because it's a 24 pin.
I believe the Apple only is a 20 pin, if I
Okay.
remember correctly.
Okay.
But this the Type C oval shaped that you insert it. It's similar to the USB, but it has an oval shape. The Lightning is kind of like just a flat bar, like a flat little tab that has the pins along the exposed on it. So if you look at it, you know, kind of look like this, or nothing like this because my drawing is terrible. All right, here we go. All right.
Yeah, the lightning is flat.
The Lightning is flat and
It sticks out.
and
Yeah,
it
it's
sticks
flat.
out.
It's a flat little
Right.
tab, and it is proprietary to Apple.
To Apple. So that's what
Can you
makes
see
it.
I don't know if you're able to see this. Give me a second so I can help you
Mhm.
out.
I mean, I got one of those.
I don't know if you can you see that?
There you go. Yep. See how it sticks
No,
out?
I don't see you on the screen. Wait a
You don't
minute.
see, no, hold on.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it sticks out. And the USB-C is like a receptacle. So something, when you put it in the connector, something from the connector is going to go into the USB-C connection. There's something inside of the receptacle for the USB-C to plug into, and that's where it goes in that hole there.
Yep. And then like on the Apples and the USB part of it, you can see a little white tab right here in the USB. It doesn't mean it's a 1.0. It just means Apple likes everything to be aesthetically pleasing. So they make it the way they want it. So they would be the exception to the 3.0 rule in that particular one. But again, when they're focusing on an Apple cable, they're going to be talking about the Lightning part that you would actually be inserting into the phone. Although on the computer docking side, they're actually converting to USB-C, and I believe they will be converting the connectors to the Apple phones to USB-C as well, because
Yes.
that technology is just really proving to be very robust with a lot of promise in it.
Yeah, fast
So-
transmission speeds, and you get fast charging also.
Mhm.
Charging is a lot faster.
Absolutely. Although we are moving more towards wireless charging as well. Did you have a question, Karen? Another one or? Okay. So go ahead and erase my broom off to the side here. There we go. And get my tool back out. So here is the distinctive rectangular shape of the USB type A. And then the B, like we showed, kind of has this little boxy shape to it. And then the 3.0 type B will have a little kick up like that. That'll have and it'll be blue in color. Your micro B, it's a little tough to see, so I'm trying to trace it out here. It's got that little indentation there. That's kind of how the connector will look. And then we can see our micro here. Why they put it upside down, I don't know. Our little top hat mini. And then obviously here is the USB-C, which we see right up here, much better. And then the Apple, which is just a flat tab with 20 pins on it. All right. Any other questions? Yes, Rachel.
For me, the micro B looks like a B. That's how I
That is true.
differentiate it from the
I like
A.
that.
Looks like a B. Because that little divot, or it's like two connections.
Yeah, because if you
in
put it on
one,
its side, it's kind of.
It's a B.
Wow, that was really bad. Let's try that one more time. That's a little better. So yeah, it does look like a B. Put it up on its side. So good call. I like that. Micro B
Good
looks like a B. Beautiful. Whatever little tricks you can use to remember this stuff, please share. And whatever ones we've collected over time, we'll share with you. There's some little mnemonics we use to remember the OSI layers and the various ports that we have to need to know, and the steps for laser printing and all that kind of fun stuff. Some of them we even have too. Like laser printing, we have a clean version and an R-rated version. For some reason, nobody ever remembers the clean version. They all go for the other one. Not saying that that speaks to the people, but that's just what they tend to prefer because it's what sticks in their head. So, all right. Firewire. I'm still a fan of Firewire, I'm not going to lie. I use them on some of my backup hard drives. Firewire 800 does really good. The connectors on these kind of look like an arrow. So the 800s look like this. And then the 400s are kind of boxy like that. They have a the 400 had a 4-pin connector and a 6-pin connector, which was kind of nice. You could daisy chain up to 16 devices together. I think the most I ever did was like 6. They run at about 400 megabits per second, hence the 400, and the 800 runs at 800 megabits per second. It's nice how that kind of stuff works out. The maximum cable length on the 400 was 4.5 meters. And the maximum cable length on the 800 was 100 meters. So that's really impressive. That's almost like a network cable. So 100 meters, that's 300 feet. I have yet to find a scenario where I needed my hard drive 300 feet from my computer. But hey, if we wanted to, we could do it. And it has a 9-pin rectangular connector. But as sad as it is, much like the zip drive and the Jazz drive, this technology is going by the wayside, becoming legacy, and only to be picked up by a child 20 years from now going, what is this? I was given a hard time about that for years because I picked up an 8-track because I thought it was an Atari game. I'm like, who are the Doobie Brothers? Never heard of that game. All right. So here's the two types of connectors we just showed you on the previous one, like this one here. You got the arrow shape. Right here kind of looks like an arrow, and it's even got a little notch in the back. Man, I just butchered that one. I'm gonna try that one more time. Oh, give me my eraser. There we go. All right. I swear I can trace things. There we go. Kind of like an arrow. And then the other side here has got that little boxy shape. Comes up, little indentation. There we go. Just to make it a little bit more visible. Firewire, the A has a maximum length of 15 meters. The B, or the Firewire, there's the 400, maximum length of, I gotta go back now. I think it was like 12.4 meters. 4.5 meters. There it is. 4.5 meters. Maximum length for 800 is 100 meters, and it can have 63 Firewire devices chained together.
If you're satisfied with the message, press 1. To listen to your message, press 2. To erase and re-record, press 3. To
Press
continue
1.
recording,
Press 1. I was happy with the message.
If you're satisfied with the message, press
Absolutely.
1.
All right, here we go. Now, another way we can transmit technology. This is another one that is really going by the wayside. We don't really see this much anymore. Infrared. It is definitely an outdated wireless technology. Was really robust there for a while. All of our TV remotes operated off of it. Of course, it only had about 5 meters worth of transmission distance that you could do. You needed to have, if it had like too much lighting, like if there was too much sunlight, it wouldn't work right. So, you know, you had to get creative sometimes with your remote, maybe reflect it off the light of a picture so you can get it to go off of a lamp if somebody was standing in front of you, between you and the, you know, the TV. But now they're moving over to like Bluetooth technology, so we don't have to worry about that anymore. If you got really creative, you had to get the infrared repeater, you know, so you could hit it at the little repeater, and then it would send a radio signal to the back of the TV and turn it on there. Was really great, especially in the, you know, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And they even used it on computers for data transmission. But again, it had its downfalls. Really, really bright sunlight. If you were outside, like at a cafe or something like that, trying to do a data transfer between two computers, it was super slow. You could only transmit up to 1.5 megabits per second, which is very slow. So for the most part, this technology is kind of becoming legacy. It is not really being used today. It's being phased out in almost every aspect where it's being used because of both its distance limitations and its transmission speeds. But you do need to remember it's line of sight, 5 meters, slow transmission speeds. So you actually have to have direct line of sight of the device you're trying to communicate with. It can't be more than 5 meters away, and really slow transmission, about 1.1 megabits per second. Yes, yes, Mark. Legacy is a polite term for old in IT. So when we talk about legacy systems, they're old. All right, so infrared. Next, Bluetooth. Radio frequency technology, pretty amazing stuff. Roughly about 10 meter range. Although some of the more recent iterations allow for lower transmission rates at up to like 60 meters. So it's getting pretty impressive what Bluetooth is capable of today. Operates off of the 2.4 gigahertz bandwidth, which unfortunately allows it to interfere with other wireless communications, because 2.4 is also pretty common in wireless internet, stuff like that. As well as 2.0 and 3.0 offers up to 2.1 megabits per second of transfer. So it's good for audio, which is why Bluetooth headphones, all that kind of fun stuff become popular. Keyboards, mice, all that kind of fun stuff, where it's not going to be super high amounts of data transmitted, but allows for a pretty robust connection at a pretty reasonable distance. So 35 feet, that's pretty darn good, especially when you're, transitioning away from, say, infrared. So if you have a remote for your TV or stereo or whatever, and it's operating off of Bluetooth, you can, operate it from another room. You don't have to have line of sight, great technology. Fun history lesson I always like to bring up. Does anybody know where the name Bluetooth comes from? By chance?
Like Harold Bluetooth or something like that, right?
It's like what?
Harold Bluetooth, I want to say.
Harold? Is that what you said? Harold Bluetooth?
Yes.
Yeah. It was like a Norwegian. It was a Viking king by the name of Blotvar, which translates to Bluetooth. And what it was he was the first king of the Nordic tribes to actually unite all the tribes through diplomacy, not violence. So he actually got everybody to communicate with each other without conflict. And so when they developed this technology in Norway, they were just like, yeah, that's a great example. We'll use it. And even the symbol that we use today for Bluetooth, that was the runic symbol for Blotvar. That was his signet. So interesting thing, it allows, the main reason they went with that is it allows us to connect multiple electronic devices so that they can communicate without conflict. So there is your history lesson and association for the day. And yes, Blotvar was his nickname. That was, translates to Bluetooth because he had, I think, a dead tooth up front, and it was like bluish in color. So yes, personal area networks, or PANs. We will be getting into that as well later. So there we go. Device connectors, PS2. Whenever you get lost on that, little icons up top can probably help you. Keyboard and mouse connectors, PS2. Not to be confused with the PlayStation 2, PS2. Although they probably did come out around the same time. So you have the teal and a lavender colors, that particular one. Questions so far on that one? It's pretty straightforward. Nope. All right, DB9. Serial port, typically used for dial-up modems. DB will have that rhombus shape. And then 9 refers to the number of pins associated with it. DB stands for D subminiature, but this is also known as a serial port. All right. Jerusalem, this is typically used for this particular one. The DB9 is typically used for modems. So dial-up internet, where they would use this for originally. All right. Next, the DB25. So DB, D sub miniature, has that rhombus shape, just like the DB9. 25 pins in here, and typically this is used for a printer. So DB25, typically used for printers. Also referred to as a parallel port. Here's one we should all be familiar with. That is specifically referring to the connector on the end of your network cable. It's called an RJ45. Underneath it right here, it has 8 pins for the 8 wires inside of it that establish your network connection. So it's an RJ45. Henceforth, that is how it will be referred to in class. RJ45. Here is the old school RJ11. This is a 4-pin or 4-wire connector used for telephone lines, also referred to as POTS, P-O-T-S, plain old telephone service. And this was how we originally got our internet in the horrible days where our computer screamed at us when it was connecting to the internet. It took 2 days to download a picture. And email was just a dream. But still, sometimes today, there are people who will use it. So we do need to be aware of it. So RJ11. And yes, Rachel, did you have a connection? Or a question?
A little question. Do we need to know whether those other cables are female or male? For the
You don't
test?
necessarily need to, but if you look at this part of it, this here is the female side, and then where it is recessed here, that is the male side. So where the pins are sticking out, that's the male, where the pins would actually go into female. Thankfully, it is pretty straightforward on that. Same here, you can see it. Here is the male side, here is the female side. But typically they won't ask you specifically if that's the case. For the A+ at least. And then, yeah, RJ45, wider, 8 pins, 8 wires to connect. It is a little bit more rectangular. RJ11, smaller, a little more square shaped, and only has 4 pins connected inside of it. You will also hear these referred to as UTP cables or STP, depending on the type you're using. UTP stands for unshielded twisted pair. We will be going over this again. STP stands for shielded twisted pair. They would twist the wires together because it allows for the wires to all be connected at 90-degree angles, which prevents data crosstalk. So the data transmitting from one wire to the other, which would jumble up your data, cause data loss and things like that. So they would actually twist the wires together to make it so the transmission was cleaner and allows for longer cable runs. So, all right, questions so far? All right. Next, installing I/O peripherals devices. It's pretty straightforward, thankfully, for the most part, especially nowadays. Read the manufacturer's directions that comes with it. Make sure the drivers are provided with the device. Sometimes it comes with a nice little optical disc. Sometimes it may come with a USB, though I often tell people do not ever plug random USBs into your computer, ever. If people are giving them out as promotionals, don't do it, because I can't tell you how many hackers would literally stand out on the street and basically handing out USBs like, yeah, this is my new mixtape, you know, I'm just an upcoming artist, please listen to it, you know, give it a shout, share it to your friends. And it's literally malware to go onto your computer and give them access. So don't ever put a USB in there that is not directly out of a package or from somebody you trust. And if that person you trust doesn't really know a lot about computer security, I would second guess it then too. But again, we'll get into security a lot more as we go along. So a lot of times they will provide it with a USB device or an optical drive. Typically, it'll be like a small little DVD-ROM or something like that. That will give you the drivers. Many times the basic drivers will already be on your machine, which will allow you to connect to the internet and then install it from their website, the drivers, and it'll you know, more often than not prompt you to go to their website and update the drivers. So you make sure all that's enabled. Make sure the motherboard port you are utilizing is enabled, because you can turn these off. There are security reasons why you would want to do that. Install the drivers, plug in the device. Some devices are what's called plug and play, although we affectionately refer that to plug and pray, because you just hope it works when you plug it in. But many devices are considered to be plug and play. They, you know, already have basic drivers installed. You're good to go. You can operate most of the functionality of the device off of the basic drivers. You install the application software and you are off to the races, utilizing your brand new fancy peripheral. Yes, step 3, that would be done through the BIOS itself, but that would be if you're installing something straight onto the motherboard, and you want to make sure that those ports or connectors are active and open. All right. Oh, we have come this far. Let's see here. Cynthia, can you please tell us what this is here in the upper left?
That's a RJ45.
It absolutely is. Thank you so much. Up next, Dermis, can you please tell us what is in the upper center, please?
USB 3.0.
Man, even went for the generation. USB 3.0. Thank you very much. Let's see here. Joseph, can you please tell us what we have here in the upper right-hand side? Bonus points if you can give me the government name too. All right. Miyaza, can you please tell us upper right, right here? Not a USB micro. Not a USB micro, but that's a good guess. Based off the shape of it, that is a good guess. It's a little bit bigger than that. Candido, can you please tell us, sir, what you got?
That looks to me like either Firewire 800 or 400. It looks like 800.
That is a Firewire 800. Can you tell me the government name of it?
The what name of it?
Government name. Part of it's listed right there.
You said the government name?
Yeah, the government name of it. For the Firewire, government name is IEEE.
I
1394.
I didn't know that before.
It's typically listed on the top of the cable. So if you see that 1394, that should tell you instantly it is a Firewire. So very good. Yeah, Firewire or IEEE 1394.
What is the government name for the 400?
It still falls under the same
Okay.
standard. So it's still considered an IEEE 1394.
All right. Thank you.
One is A and one is B.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Not a problem. All right. Let's see here. Ronald, can you please tell us what this one is right here? You're getting a lot of help in chat there, Ronald. All right. PS2 and for specifically the keyboard, if your eyes are good enough, you can see there's a fancy little icon there. Also, more specifically, this is a PS2 adapter, and back here, the receiver part of it would be a USB. Good. All right, Melinda, can you please tell us bottom center, what do we have here? You are muted. I don't know if your microphone's turned off. I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Might have to type it in chat. All right. So let me go. RJ11, aka POTS, plain old telephone service, 4-pin connector. Very good. Vincent, can you please take us home? Last one. Man, is it me? Nobody's microphone's working.
Yeah, you're muted.
There you go, Vincent. Can you try again? Yeah, that's 2 for 2. Got some debate in chat.
Vincent, you may have to log out and then log back in.
Same with Melinda, but we'll wait till the end of the presentation. We'll do that.
Yeah.
We're almost done. We only got like 2 slides to go. Everybody's like mini, micro, mini, micro, mini, micro. That is the mini.
Yeah.
Got got the little top hat. You see it right there. All right. Oh, we got another one here.
I have a question.
Okay.
I put it on the chat, but is it just plain mini? Is it either mini A
Mini
or
B.
B?
Mini B.
Mini B? Okay, thanks.
All right. So let's go through here. Hunter, what's down here? It's bottom right. What do we got there?
That is the joystick game port.
Game port. Very good. Let's see here. Karen, can you please tell us what this big pink one is right here? What do we got there? You are muted. I cannot hear you.
That is the one for the printer.
Okay. What else do we got?
LP,
Go ahead.
LPT1 printer port.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
right.
That is LPT1. Very good.
Good, thank you.
All right. Lorraine, can you please tell us what this one is right here? Right here.
That's the USB.
It's
It's
kind
a
of shaped.
USB port.
It's kind of like this.
Hold on.
Icon for it has a line with like 3 boxes on it right here. Getting a lot of help in chat.
Oh, that's the serial port dial-up modem.
Not the serial port. Not the serial port. That's a good guess, but you're on the right track. You're on the right track. This would be how you would connect to the network, to the internet.
It's the Ethernet.
There you go. You
Ethernet.
got it. You got it. It's the Ethernet or network port. All right. Coming around. Maftuna, can you please tell us what these are right here?
That's a keyboard and a mouse ports.
More affectionately known as
PS2 port. and
PS2 ports. Very good. Very good. All right. Let's see here. Saladam, can you please tell us what these are right here? These 2 fancy little ports.
USB.
USB. Excellent. Thank you. And T-12, can you please tell us what is right below the USB ports? Right here.
Serial port.
Serial
port.
Serial port,
Serial
yes.
port.
Serial port, dial-up modem, absolutely. Good job. Jessica, can you tell us what is below the serial port right here? It's a little blue one right there. Can you tell us what that is?
For the monitor, the VGA.
VGA? What else do we call that?
The monitor. No.
Yeah, I mean, it is for the monitor. I'm with you there. We do call it a VGA, but there is another thing we call it, and it has to do with the number of little holes in there. You're getting some help in chat.
DB15.
DB15. DB15.
DB15.
Also known as a VGA. And that is your older monitors would use this.
Thanks, guys.
Very good. Thank you. Good job. Finally. See here, Tistyle, can you please tell me what these 3 ports down here are typically used for? You are muted, sir. Oh, you don't see the video? Alrighty. Let's go with Raekwon. Can you please tell me what these 3 ports are down here at the bottom?
What just happened? My screen. Okay, just go to the zone. Just go to the thingy. Okay, so the bottom 3. Oh wait, gotta put my name. Sorry. All right, bottom 3. That's the U. I don't know. Not sure.
Got some helping you out in chat.
What did you say about the chat?
Got some help there.
Oh, I see audio port, speakers. That's what people are saying.
They are correct.
So the audio port, the speakers, and the line in. I think that's what somebody else said.
Yes, that is correct. That's what those are the connections on the back of the computer for those inputs, for those devices rather.
Apologies, my computer apparently needed to take a break.
All right, good job, everyone. And you will have another opportunity or plenty of other opportunities to improve your knowledge of connectors. Trust me, trust me, connectors and the wires, your connectors.
Is absolutely true. All right, truly nice work, everyone. To our last slide here. You should be able to now define the role, purpose, and types of peripherals, compare and contrast various connection interfaces and their characteristics and purpose, and identify connector types and associated cables. Installing common peripheral devices, including input and output devices. There are more cables and connectors we'll be learning along the way, like fiber optics, network, all that kind of fun stuff, but we will kind of be working into those as we go. This is more of an introduction to it, but it does continue. Are there any questions so far about what we just went over? No? All right.